welcome back to Burden of Proof podcast. I'm Elise Crawford Gallagher, our COO here at JC Law. I'm here with our CEO, James Crawford.
Hello.
Hi. Our topic today is contemplating a divorce. Our mission at JC Law is to educate the next generation of legal professionals in order to create a more just and accessible legal system in service to our clients. That means we are constantly trying to improve our client satisfaction and experience, and that all starts at the very beginning of when a client first reaches out to us and says, I have a problem, I need your help. So today we're going to be talking about what it means to think that you may need a divorce, what the next steps are, who do you turn to, what questions do you ask. We're here to answer those for you. So Jim, how do we start the process of contemplating a divorce?
Well, I wanted to do this podcast because a lot of people have asked me questions over the last few weeks about, number one, how do we get involved in doing divorce work? And how does this whole thing work? It's not magic. When I like to think that divorces start, and the seed for divorce starts a long way before the actual divorce.
Of course.
Which is unfortunate, and people who are contemplating a divorce or actually get a divorce, it's not as if they are waking up one day and say, yay, I'm going to get a divorce. I mean, it's a terrible time.
Right.
Terrible time, yes. It happens, but most people don't want a divorce. But it's a gradual process, and people come to a finalization in their mind, and when they really start, that something happens, that trigger when they start thinking, I'm actually now contemplating divorce. It's become real in my mind. So when a person actually reaches out to a lawyer at that stage, it varies. Some people will almost never reach out. They'll wait till the sky falls in. They'll wait for their spouse to come over to them and say, you know what, I'm getting the divorce, do what you got to do, and then they'll finally go to the lawyer. And some won't even go then. But other people will go ahead of time and say, I'm just thinking about this, and I want to know what my rights are and where I'm going to end up and what have you. And, in today's society, there's a reason why we're growing. Unfortunately, it's a reason why our firm, who does probably more divorce work than 99% of the firms on the East Coast, is a reason why we're doing what we're doing. And I say unfortunate, but this is what we do. And the only solace I get out of that is to try to help the people in that situation. If someone's sick, someone has a medical problem, the doctor's job is to try to help them. Our job as lawyers is to try and teach, educate, and help that person.
Of course.
So if someone has finally come to a conclusion where they're now actually contemplating a divorce, you need to step into action. That action is to really meet with a lawyer. You have to meet with a lawyer. It's uncomfortable. It's like, going to the doctors, but you have to do it, and you have to figure it out. The problem and the issues that most people are worried about, number one, is usually children. Who's going to get custody? Who's not going to get custody? Who's going to see the children? How is this going to affect the children? Et cetera, et cetera. Anyone that tells you it's not going to affect the children are lying to you. It just is what it is. But as therapists may tell you, and other doctors, professionals, maybe it's better that the kids are not in that environment. So that's something that needs to be balanced and what have you. But the point is that when you come to a firm like ours, we want to be able to walk you through what you need to do to get to where you need to be. If you don't pull the trigger, all the better. But if you do pull the trigger, well, we need to get into the horse in the saddle and make this work for you.
So can I ask, it sounds like we can speak to someone who's just thinking of filing a divorce. You don't need to reach out to an attorney when you, at the very last minute, when you absolutely have to file for divorce. You can start early on in the process.
You should.
Right.
Okay, you should. And most people feel guilty. Most people feel like they don't want to even think about something like that and they'll try to hold on and hold on and hold on. And the result is that usually ends in a catastrophe. Protective orders, other types of domestic violence, people get angry, people get so frustrated. So they end up in a situation where it's out of their control. It's in your control if you go and find out what you're up against. Okay? People are worried about their kids, but they're also worried about other things, property. I've worked all my life, or she's worked all her life, and we have acquired this property. Am I now going to have to give it to another person?
Right.
Okay, maybe I wanted to give it to my kids,
Right.
but is that going to happen? Alimony is a huge deal. I mean, that's something that is such an esoteric discussion, because there's no question across this country that alimony is needed. There's times when it is needed.
Sure.
Fairness is fairness. It just depends. But there's times also when it is completely unfair and people take advantage of it. So that's why you'll never have robots for judges.
Right.
Okay, you have to have that equation. But here's some news for everybody. The judges make decisions based upon what is presented to them. They're not going to make a decision what they don't hear. They're not going to make a decision about something that they don't know. They're not going to be able to look at evidence that they don't have in front of them. It's your lawyer's job to present that in your best interest. And you need someone, or a lawyer and a firm, that is aggressive. We are aggressive. We have to be. It could be someone's life. Look, there's cases that it's just kind of, you know what, Jim, we don't get along. Let's just make this work and get it done. That's great, and we try to work that out, and we work towards that. But there's also times that no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to resolve it. No matter what you do, you cannot resolve it. You need to get ready to go into the courtroom. You know what the funny thing about it is? 33, 34 years of practicing law. The more I would take a case like that, and my lawyers would, and prepare for trial, two things happen. One is it's more likely to resolve. And number two, you're more likely to end up in a position of more success because you're preparing for it. There's a lot of other issues, obviously. Debt, if you're in the military, we do a tremendous amount of military divorces. We have done this for a long, long time. This is what we do every day. It's one of those areas in life that, when I say, oh, I'm a divorce lawyer, people raise their eyebrows like, oh, that's great, I don't want to talk to this guy, until they need to talk to this guy.
Right.
Okay, then they want to talk to me. But it's very interesting. There's a lot of social issues that go along with that. But the whole point of this podcast, I think, really is that, the word contemplating. Most people think contemplating is when you get hit in the face. Now you got to contemplate it. No, the time to contemplate it is when your gut tells you.
Absolutely.
Your gut tells you. And it could be an early divorce. It could be a divorce of many years. And the thing is that, it doesn't have to be the end of the relationship with that person. It could just be a different hat in a different relationship.
Sure.
And there's many times that happens. But there's also many times when people are cheating on people, and there's just a lot of ill will, and there's a lot of bad feelings. Money always finds its way into the equation. Start early. Start early, and also come prepared. Look, if you sit down with me and you come to me and you have this blank look, and all you say to me is, "I need help," well, I can walk you through the A to Z. But it's really better if you think ahead of time before the actual meeting about what issues are you concerned about. I can, in my words, we can bring you to reality about what's going to happen. And you know what the funny thing about that is? As much pain and difficulty that people have when they initially go through this, it's okay, because the end result is, if you do it the right way, everybody's going to be okay.
Right.
The kids are going to be okay, you're going to be okay, and you're going to protect yourself and the kids. And it all depends upon the relationship with the other party. When you need to throw some punches, you got to throw some punches. Believe me, we do what we need to do. But there's also the other side of the coin.
Right. So if someone listening today is contemplating divorce, they feel that in their gut, that maybe their relationship is headed for separation, what is their first step in interacting with JC Law?
I think that you got to go online and you got to contact us. There's many ways of doing it. You could just chat. If
Right,
you
we
just
have a chat option on our website.
and you can, it's so hard for people to like formally go in. First of all, some people are worried that their spouse is going to find out they're going to see a divorce lawyer, and that they're worried about walking into a law office and somebody's going to see them or what have you.
Right.
Those days are gone pretty much, but still there are people that do that. So we do consultations where people are sitting in their car at lunchtime. They want to figure this
Right.
out. We do consultations, sometimes late at night, on the weekends. And it's not that we're some kind of like we doing it 24/7. This is just the reality of the way the world works and what goes on with people. We've had moms that just drop their kids off, at a school function. They have 15 minutes. Dads that are, leaving a sports game with their kids. We can walk you through A to Z of things you probably haven't even thought about. Okay. But if you come on strong and you do it the right way, then we can make it successful. I will say this, most divorces are messy.
I'm sure.
Okay. Very few people can keep their head and say, well, you know what, honey, I loved you for 20 years, or you loved me and we no longer, but I'm going to do this and I'm going to give you that. No, it doesn't work that way, especially if somebody has stepped out on the other person and there's resentment or what have you. But I will say this, realize if you're contemplating a divorce, that time, many, many times, will change your thought process. And you need a lawyer that can not just process this for you. You don't need a processor. You need someone to basically guide you and discuss these things with you and make you understand. And then you should be able to push back and be able to say, I want this and I want that. It's got to be a collaborative relationship. And that's what a good lawyer does.
What I think is unique about JC Law is that you have two options when you call our office. So when you call, you will be put in contact with the intake specialist who will hear about your story and direct you to the perfect attorney, the attorney on call who will speak to you immediately. You have access to one of our attorneys immediately when you call.
Yeah.
Or if you are in a position where you only have a minute and you want to schedule a call for later at a time when is maybe more inconspicuous with your spouse or something, then we can do that as well.
There's a lot of different options.
Right.
We have a lot of lawyers and a lot of professionals that can walk you through this. And our mission in life, so to speak, is to help people that find themselves in a position where they have to get divorced. Either it's your own instincts or your spouse is doing this and it's something that's going on as fair. It's interesting too because it's an esoteric discussion about society. The courts have changed a little bit. There's certain law firms that out there just represent men. And there's certain law firms that will not represent men. I think that's silly. There are certain issues that may pertain to a man versus a woman, but you need someone who is versatile, firm is versatile, that understands both sides. Because if you're representing one side, you still need to understand what you need to do in order to be successful.
Right.
Okay, so we have that, and we have the ability to, if you need to be, talked off a ledge. If you need to be assured, get in touch with someone, at least begin a conversation, develop a relationship, even if it's just texting or
Right.
communicating. We can get you there.
What are some of the questions that an attorney will ask someone initially when they come to contact our firm about divorce?
But we have to get some index information.
Sure.
Okay, because if if husband number one calls on a Monday and wife number one calls on a Wednesday, we need to know that we can't represent and advise both
Right.
parties, right? So names are a big deal. And the first thing I do, to be honest with you, Elise, is when I meet someone in person, especially, or online, is I do an assessment of just what's going on with them. I can tell right away, someone's in a great deal of distress, or at least pretty quickly. I can figure out what they need to do. And sometimes you need to calm that person down. Sometimes you need to rev it up. Sometimes you need to say, hey, you're in trouble here. You've got to get this fixed because
Right.
wake up. Wake up. Your husband or wife is telling you this and you're not doing anything. You better wake up because, and there's certain things you may need to do as far as bank accounts, credit cards, kids, a lot of things. Okay. So that's one of the things. But, an assessment of the immediacy of what's going on. And then I back it down from there. We go through issue through issue through issue. The first consultation is not going to be a detailed conversation unless we decide we want to do that.
Right.
If the person wants to spend time, then sure, we'll do it. But it's generally a general health exam, figuring out what we need to do in order to get you to that next step and to do something. People feel guilty about taking this step. And if they don't take the step and do the assessment and move on it, they could really get hit between the eyes and it could
Right.
knock them down. It could be a real problem.
Right.
Believe me, trust your instinct.
Right. And sometimes we have had people who just take a consultation, talk to one of our attorneys, and then come back in a few months and realize, you know what, I do want to take a step forward. Or they retain that hour and they move forward. So
People want hope.
right.
People want hope. Most people, when they contact us, they don't all know that they're absolutely going to get divorced.
Right.
Okay, and that's understandable. And put it this way: I hate my husband. I never want to be around him again. I want a divorce. I've had it. And that person goes home, and next thing you know, the husband has flowers, and they temporarily fall in love again.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because people don't want to disrupt. They want that.
Change is tough.
Usually. But then as soon as something else happens, it's like, you know what? So eventually you're gonna reach your limit.
Right.
So you're right. So an initial consultation, I tell people go. This is what you need to do to protect yourself, and go about your life. When you're ready to do it, we'll do it. If you need to reach me. We'll go from there. And you need to take certain steps as far as protecting in that situation.
Is there any paperwork or certain information that a potential client needs to present to an attorney at that initial meeting?
Well, we do have paperwork, and there's some things we do. It depends on how far we want to go. If a person needs just to be advised, then they're just advised, and there's not a lot of paperwork. But if we're taking the next step to move forward, then there's some paperwork, and it is what it is. There are many ways to skin a cat from a standpoint that, Maryland used to have, and they still do, and other states as well, have pen de lite, vicula matrimonia, and thorough limited divorces, okay? Meaning that I don't want to be around you right now, okay? I just want to kind of like live my life somewhere else and do what it is. I want to sign an agreement. I don't want to get divorced from you yet. I don't even want to think about that, okay? But you go do your thing, I'm going to do my thing, and we'll kind of do what we need to do. So it's kind of like a separation, but everybody understands what's going on there. So that's a possibility. Sometimes people need time, to really come to a conclusion. This is not a mill.
Right.
Anybody who does something like this just offhandedly is not getting good advice. It can be quick. Listen, a simple divorce in Maryland, we can get you divorced pronto, really, really quickly now. Over the last couple of years, most of the old ecclesiastic states, meaning the old religious states, they have changed. Now it's more of a civil ceremony divorce type agreement. There's still a lot of the old tentacles that has to happen. For example, really people aren't necessarily worried about, let's just say, adultery as a ground for divorce anymore. It's more of a mutual separation. But adultery can play a big part in the distribution of assets, which is because Maryland's an equitable state. Under the Maryland Property Act, other states across the country, up and down the coast, they vary, and some of them are like Maryland, some are not. So it just depends.
Right. And we are unique as well in that we offer free consultation. So there's literally no skin off your back to contact us and at least talk through the process with someone.
Elise, I've caught a lot of hell over the years about that. And, most of my friends and lawyers, I mean, not just in Maryland, but in other states of Pennsylvania, Virginia, Florida, Carolina, why don't you charge for your consultations? And most do. Well, that's true. I just don't look at it that way. Most of the people that come to me, I still have clients coming back to me from 32 years ago. And I'm not going to say we're best friends. It's not about that. They do a job. I mean, I do a job and they respect that or what have you. But, this is a personal service industry.
Right.
And, people are in a situation where they need to find out information. If you're going to retain this, you're going to retain this. I'm not worried about that. That's going to happen. But establishing a relationship is what I try to teach my lawyers, because that relationship is going to last for a while.
We're definitely a relationship first.
No question.
Firm
No
here.
question.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I think this was very informative. You have access to a lawyer at any time. Just go to jamescrawfordlaw.com. You can find our chat that you mentioned, as well as our phone numbers at any of our offices, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, or DC.
Trust your instinct, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.